What is good? What is good? 2 minutes in the box with Gordo, April 30th, 2025. The daily grind of news, rumors, and updates. Let's get to it. All right, let's talk about last night's games. So, first up, the Toronto Maple Leafs are at it again. They can't close it out. They are 1 and 13, and their last 14 games are trying to close games in the series out. And boy, oh boy, the Ottawa Senators 4-0 shutout against the Maple Leafs. And look at this. Thomas Shabbat, Dylan Cousins, Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk just kicking their ass. And I'll say this, Linus Olmark, man, I gotta say, this is going to be hilarious, but tragic for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They are going to choke this one again. If they choke this, God, this is worse than the Chicago Cubs curse. At least the Cubs got their curse erased in 2016. But the Leafs, this is just sad. I mean, the Blackhawks, they got rid of their curse. The Blues got rid of theirs. Panthers got their Stanley Cup. I mean, in Vegas as well. It's embarrassing to see the Toronto Maple Leafs can't close it out. They're just choking it. You know, they need an old priest, a young priest, a child, a cross, Bible, and holy water, and some sage to cleanse that building and cleanse the whole city so that they can actually win a Stanley Cup for once. It's pretty sad. They won the Atlantic Division. Everything's going their way, but they just can't get it over. They can't get over the hump, but they got another opportunity tomorrow. But if they can't do it again, it's over for them. It is definitely over for them. I don't blame Craig Berube. I don't blame it. Anyone. I just think it's just like ironically a coincidence. If I was Toronto, I would probably just try to ignore the pressure and tell the media to go F themselves because the media is like riding on them. And it's like every time they win, it's like they won the Stanley Cup. The media should just shut up, just do their job, and just talk calmly instead of like being too excited, fully joyful of winning a single playoff game. It's a journey. It's not the NFL when you win a Super Bowl, whatever. It takes 16 wins to win the Stanley Cup, Toronto, not 8. Times have changed. This ain't 1967 no more. It's 2025. Get your shit together, boys. Get it together. All right, now double overtime. Heartbreak for the New Jersey Devils. They went up 3-0, and then they get the lead back 4-3, and Carolina gets the series winner by Sebastian Aho. Sebastian Aho, 2 goals, and Andrei Soshnikov played well, and Jackson Blake and Taylor Hall, and they played well. They played well. They got the dub. They got the no surprise 5-game series win. And Taylor Hall, on the other hand, what a great day for him is because he just got himself a 3-year, $9.5 million contract extension. He's been a good fit for the Carolina Hurricanes. And yeah, he made his money already, former MVP, and it's a perfect fit for Carolina. It is a perfect fit. And meanwhile, over in Sin City, Las Vegas, Vegas Golden Knights, overtime win against the Minnesota Wild. And Phil Gustafson, he basically got ill in the middle of the game, and Marc-Andre Fleury comes in. And I'll say this, Flower is going to get one dub out of this. He wants to break Vegas Golden Knights' heart. I know Vegas won the game in overtime. Jack Eichel was very crucial in this game. At Brent Howden got that game-winning goal in overtime. And it was a close game. It was very close and competitive. Ike's got 2 assists, but in Kirill Kaprizov, he is playing like a man possessed. And I gotta be honest, this is gonna go to 7. I think Minnesota wins at home, and I think something big's gonna happen in Game 7. I predicted Vegas to win in Game 7, but I know it's gonna be too late. But if Minnesota wins at home, and Minnesota is going to win Game 7, but something tells me it's going to come down to the wire. I believe this next game will go to overtime again. And yeah, and lastly, the LA Kings, they are choking their series away. This is going to be the 4th straight year lost a series to the Edmonton Oilers. And what the hell is Jim Hiller doing? Like seriously, what the hell was he doing? Like challenging a obvious goal, and basically it cost them. It cost them big time. Evander Kane getting that goal, very huge for the Edmonton Oilers. And I got me saying this: if LA loses against Edmonton, it's over for Hiller and Rob Blake. They're going to be gone, and it won't be surprising that we're going to see a new coach and GM coming up very, very soon in LA. Yeah. And we're going to see something very interesting. But now let's get to the three games tonight. We got three games, two early and one late one. We've got two potential closing night games. So we've got the Montreal Canadiens and the Washington Capitals. Capitals up 3-1. And you both lost your starting goaltender and Sam Montembeault and Jakob. And I'll tell you, it's not looking good for Montreal. And they got Caden Primo in net. And Washington, oh yeah, they're definitely closing this one out tonight. It's definitely over for the Montreal Canadiens, and it's like lights out. Now we've got a 3-1 series lead between the Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning, and Florida is at a -108, and meanwhile Tampa Bay at -112. You know, just and that suspension to Aaron Ekblad was a bunch of crap. It was a crappy suspension. 2 games. I mean, are they really trying to throw this series off and screw with everybody? I mean, damn. I'm going to tell you, Florida's going to get the dub. It's over for Tampa Bay. And we know for a fact that it's going to be Florida with the dub coming up tonight. And speaking of Tampa Bay Lightning, here's the wildest thing I heard today. There were reports from the New York Post that John Cooper's name was attached to Utah Hockey Club to become their next coach after next season. Not this upcoming 25-26 season, but 26-27. I could definitely see it. This is why I'm wearing my Utah. The future is bright in Salt Lake City in the state of Utah. It's a bright future. They just showed their renderings in their new renovation phase 1, but they got several more phases to go. But it's amazing what they're doing in Utah in the Delta Center. They're basically raising up the court and floor 2 feet so they can get rid of the obstruction views, and the lower bowl is being gutted. It's going to be one of the best venues in the NHL, and it's going to be like, wow. Where is your consistency to several owners in the NHL? They could have done this. Hey, Howard Schultz, where the hell was that in 2006 or 7? Like before he sold the team to Clay Bennett. Same thing with you, Clay. You could have done that, in Seattle for the Sonics, but you just cowardly moved to Oklahoma. But then it gets wilder, for the Coyotes. You could have done the same damn renovation where the Suns played, but no, they were too cheap to do the renovation. That is just a bunch of crap. That's just a bunch of garbage. Yeah, and like I said, and Andre Turgeon, I like him as a coach. I think he's done well with the young guys with Utah/Arizona, but I don't know if it would be smart for Cooper to leave Tampa Bay. Like for me, I always want to go back to Michigan, but there's no way in hell. I love the weather down here, except for hurricane season and all that stuff. But I would love to stay in the state of Florida. But if Utah takes their game to another level, OMG, yeah, they are definitely going to go for one of the best coaches and longest tenured coaches in the NHL. I mean, if they can't get him, I mean, plan B, you can go for Mike Sullivan or Rick Tocchet at this point, down the road. But I would personally go with Utah getting Mike Sullivan, plan B, if they can't get John Cooper to come along. I mean, why is Larry Brooks making this stupid rumor before game 5, a potential like elimination and season savior? But I'm telling you, I think John Cooper will stay in Tampa Bay, but if Andre Tourigny doesn't get Utah in the playoffs next year, I wouldn't be surprised they go with Mike Sullivan as a plan B option if they can't get John Cooper. Doesn't matter how much money you're going to throw at him. I mean, hey, if you throw a multi-million dollar contract to a coach, how's that worked out? Toronto had it with Mike Babcock, and that didn't work out, and he was gone almost halfway through the contract. And Joel Quinville, same thing, you know. I think it's a bad, bad idea to give a coach a big contract, you know. But I'm telling you, Mike Sullivan will be Utah's coach if and when it happens the following season. And yeah, and I tell you, Utah is going to be a top five destination for free agency this offseason. And lastly, we've got the St. Louis Blues and the Winnipeg Jets. This game right here is going to be a wild one. All right, so we got a potential of it's best out of three now. So the thing is, can Connor Hollaback of the Winnipeg Jets get his groove back and redeem himself after the last two games being yanked both times? And St. Louis, they are in a somewhat of a Cinderella run, and they are staying alive in the series. And something is on my mind right now. All right. If Winnipeg can get their goaltending situation and no choke thing straightened out, I would say Winnipeg gets the dub, but St. Louis, they're deadly and dangerous. That game tonight will go to overtime. Winnipeg's going to somewhat squeak this one out, but St. Louis is not going to go out with a fight. I'm going to say that the next three games or next two games, I believe Winnipeg gets game five, St. Louis gets game six, and game seven, Winnipeg. I thought the series was going to go to 5 games, but nope, I was wrong. I believe Winnipeg is going to win this one in seven now. Yeah, you heard me. 7 games in that one. All right, now let's get to the news and rumors update. All right. We all know Carolina won last night. Ottawa survived. And now Edmonton and Vegas have the leads. And now they've got a way to, figure out a way to advance. And then Rick Tocchet is basically not with Vancouver no more. Are you surprised? Hell no, I'm not surprised. I mean, Vancouver is a dumpster fire. Not too long ago, last year, they went into the second round and they were a top team in the Western Conference. And now they went from heaven to hell very quickly. And you losing Bo Horvat, JT Miller, and now you're going to be losing Quinn Hughes. Jimmy Rutherford was saying, oh, yeah, I tried to call him, but he's on the golf course. No, no. He was at the New York Knicks game at MSG. The Knicks were playing the Pistons. It's a playoff game. And he was with his agent, Pat Brisson. There's no surprise here. New Jersey losing the first round, and they weren't healthy. I'm predicting that we're going to see New Jersey pull off a blockbuster deal to bring Quinn Hughes from Vancouver to New Jersey. You're going to have all three brothers there. And Vancouver is going to be a lottery team, not only this upcoming draft and next season. It's not pretty, and there's a coaching vacancy over there in Vancouver. I would not want to go there. Great city and all, but they're behind the times, man. They don't even have their own practice facility, which is shocking. Every team has a practice facility, but I don't know who has one. Like, I don't know if Vancouver, but Vancouver doesn't surprise me. They practice out of Rogers Arena. It's kind of wacky, but I know it's Canada and all, but geez, oh Pete's. I mean, Vancouver is in a mess, and I blame the front office. Ownership, no. I blame the front office with this one. This one is just one of those things that you're like, what the hell are they doing? It's not the owners. The owners are paying these guys to make stupid decisions. But at the end of the day, I'm blaming, the puppet master and the puppet for screwing up the Vancouver Canucks. And it's like Nashville, Nashville's got new owners, and Barry Trotz is a guy who is a very laid back dude who doesn't want to have all stars. He builds through the draft. But now you got these new owners, who's the former governor of Tennessee, wants to like do a multi-billion dollar redevelopment, and now you waste your money on Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault and Brady Shea. It's not a good sign. And Nashville, I'm predicting that they will win the lottery this year. There's no way in hell that San Jose gets another number one pick in the draft again. No. Chicago, no. I am going to go with Nashville. Maybe Boston, but Nashville Predators are going to get the number one draft pick. I'm predicting it because Nashville needs help. It's a toss up. Go with a defenseman or go with a forward. Who knows? And I would like to see Nashville get something done. And yeah, let's just put it that way. Let's just put it that way. And looking at everything I see here, but going back to the Winnipeg game, you got Gabriel Velarde coming back in the lineup, and it's going to help Winnipeg out with a potential win tonight. And yeah, let's just gotta put it this way here. Yeah, we're gonna, and I gotta tell you about Detroit Red Wings. Reports circulating that Alex Westland and LJ Scarface will not return to the Red Wings. I believe Tom McClellan's bringing his own guys in. And speaking of the Red Wings, what a circus of a press conference yesterday with Steve Eisman and Tom McClellan. And, Dylan Larkin addressed the press, and Dylan Larkin's a crybaby. He's like, oh, I want my, the front office to do more. And you're like, dude, you were kicking ass the first half of the season. You were thriving with Tom McClellan when he came in after New Year's and all that stuff. And then you just disappeared after the Four Nations Championships, and you did nothing. And, and Eisman said this best, Montreal and St. Louis, they got in the playoffs by not doing a damn thing, nothing, and they still made the playoffs. It's Dylan Larkin. Dylan Larkin is lazy, and he's entitled, spoiled little brat. Yeah, we get it, bro. You're from the Detroit area. We don't care, You were a Ken Holland draft pick. Dude, you're going to get traded either this offseason or next offseason. We don't tolerate it anymore. The Red Wings should cut ties with him, if they can't get it together. And I would like to say this, I got this crazy proposal trade. The New York Islanders are in a dumpster fire right now. They don't have a GM. Their coach is on the fence of leaving. The owner is a whack job, and they don't care. I'm going to say this. This is going to sound crazy, but the Red Wings have a lot of cap space. I would not be surprised that the Detroit Red Wings pull off one of the biggest trades since the Florida Panthers and the Calgary Flames. I am going to say the Detroit Red Wings will get Anders Lee and Matt Barzal from the New York Islanders for some, and the Red Wings had to trade some guys, but it's a sacrifice. The Red Wings, if you want to get the Red Wings back in the playoffs, you got to get a hell of a playmaker and Matty Barzal and a great all around two-way player in Anders Lee. And I'll tell you, it would make a major difference. And the Islanders are going to be a lottery team next year. If I were the Islanders, do the right thing. Cut your losses despite your nose. Trade Anders Lee and Matt Barzal to the Detroit Red Wings. And the Red Wings, they can get a defenseman on the free agent market, a useful one. Yeah. Can you imagine that Anders Lee, Anders Lee, like he's had a great bounce back season. Matty Barzal needs a fresh start. Can you imagine if you had Lucas Raymond and Matt Barzell on the wing with Dylan Larkin. If Larkin stays, oh yeah, we're going to see a very good Red Wings team. And I feel bad for Bo Horvat. And Bo Horvat should have never been traded from to the Islanders. Nice guy. I like Bo. There's no way in hell, they should have done that trade. But I believe Bo Horvat should be traded as well. I don't know where, but the New York Islanders are going to be a rebuilding team for a while. And with that circus of, ownership, just kicking Lou to the curb like that, that was whack. That was just a bunch of crap. And Patrick Waugh, and that whole thing, it's such a goddamn mess. All right. Now, the other thing too is Valtteri Filppula is officially retired from professional hockey. The only Finnish hockey player ever to be on the triple gold crown, winning Olympic gold medal, world championship, and Stanley Cup. And I say this, he's had a wonderful career. 56 games, I should say, and 530 points, 86 points on 166 playoff games. Played the last 4 or 5 years in Switzerland and in Finland. He's had a wonderful career. Yeah. And now we got another one we should talk here. Yeah. So going back to the Mike Sullivan, I believe Mike Sullivan will be a plan B for Utah, as I mentioned earlier. Yeah. So we're going to talk about the Red Wings, and Steve Yzerman addressed Dylan Larkin's recent comments and his unhappiness and his lack of significant moves. Yeah, that's the idea. I'm on Team Yzerman. Steve Yzerman is doing it the right way. He acquired DeBrincat. Is DeBrincat not enough? DeBrincat was almost a 40-goal scorer. Are you freaking kidding? And it's like, Stevie Y had talked with Dylan Larkin and didn't elaborate on that conversation. But, as what I was saying a few minutes ago, that they're talking about production in their bottom six and more 5-on-5 scoring to help their top six out. Made it clear he's willing to make trades for those issues. Yeah, that's why I said I believe that the Detroit Red Wings should go get Matt Barzell and or Anders Lee. That's what I think that the Red Wings should do. That's what they should do. It's just one of those things. And then Vladimir Tarasenko is a potential buyout, and Eric Gustafsson is a potential trade candidate. And JT Compher and Justin Holl are expected to be back next season. If I were the Red Wings, I would trade Holl in the middle of the season just to get, something in return. Compher, I think he's a good, bottom six guy. Eric Gustafsson's been underwhelming. Same thing with Vladimir Tarasenko. I agree with those statements. And yeah, and we all know Patrick Kane is going to be coming back. He's definitely coming back to the Red Wings, and he's a natural fit. Him and Marco Kasper and Alex DeBrincat. That's a great second line. One of the best. I mean, think about it. If you put Matt Barzell and Lucas Raymond and Larkin together, that could be a great one. Or you could get Anders Lee as well. I believe that right there will make a huge difference for the Detroit Red Wings. That's how you're going to make the playoffs here, people. That's how you're going to make the playoffs. Oh, yeah. That's what I see in the NHL. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, this has been 2 Minutes in the Box with Gordo. The daily grind of news, rumors, and updates. We'll be back here tomorrow to recap last night's games and previewing tomorrow night's playoff matchups and the latest news, rumors, and updates. Have a great rest of the day and be safe out there. This has been 2 Minutes in the Box with Gordo. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on the social media such as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Rumble, TikTok, etc. Have a great rest of the day.